That's dino. And what's the song for? God damn. See, that's what we're going to see. That's literally what I see Horizon Tracker. Literally to put and then put in a multiplayer map. Well done. Fucking make a map, actually make a different map, what's actually not a remap of it. Like make it like so it's not a remap of it. Right now. Yo, fuck off.
Systems online.
This is literally Halo. What do you mean? Why have they just took this out of Halo and put it in Rocket? Like this is what Halo is. This is how you call it weapon Halo. Element. Interesting. Like, all the time to do a proper gear down, stamp on headset. No, those are really struggling to get players back in. That's why I just had to block a swing, alright? This is what I want to see.
Do you really think you can contain me? No mercy.
Yo.
Ain't backing down, Zach.
I can show my Newtown dickhead. What the fuck? I swear we just remastered Transit
Hello
Newtown.
everyone, I'm John Raffis and welcome to Treyarch. Get your survival gear out and your bug out bags ready because tomorrow we will launch Operation Apocalypse Z. Zombies will be coming to every mode of Black Ops 4, and if zombies are coming to every mode, what better way to start talking about that than with our zombies team? So let's start with them.
This operation is an extremely exciting one for me personally because this one is all zombies.
Zombies has been a big part of what we do here at Treyarch.
Yeah, and you
All the way
fucking
back
ruined
from
it.
World at War, BO1, BO2, BO3, and now even BO4.
Alpha Omega follows on from the two ether maps that we've already seen in Black Ops 4. We got to play as the Ultimus crew in Classified, and we got to play as the Primus crew in Blood of the Dead. And those players who managed to finish those two maps will now realise that those two groups of characters have met. And this brings us up to Alpha Omega, where for the first time ever, players are going to be able to play as both the Primus versions and the Ultimus versions.
Yo.
Seeing these two character crews come into one space is going to drive so much of the interaction, how they talk to one another, how they interact with their space.
But you talk. I did not say anything. I think you have me mixed up with someone else.
What the fuck?
Easter eggs and different kind of nods to different points of the Ether story.
So now you're back in Newtown, but it's not the Newtown that you've played before. This map is 400% larger than the original map. And that means there's more places to explore. There's more space above ground and below ground. There's additional houses that you got to see on the block before. Now you can go in and explore those houses and see what's in there, what's going on.
Newtown's always been a fun map in the zombie storyline because while originally it was a very small map, it had elements in it that were hinting about something much bigger.
Newtown as a location in that facility is such a big part of the zombie storyline, specifically the Ether storyline. So much has happened there, and so much that we haven't really been able to talk about or tell that story yet.
So at Newtown's Broken Arrow facility, you'll find that there's been some secret weapons research going on. And these weapons are prototype ray guns that were developed at Broken Arrow.
We want players to feel the nostalgia of coming back to Newtown, and we do that with those original spaces.
but there's so much more to experience. And now that we've added new features and new mechanics, new enemy types.
A couple of them are based on the Nova 6 crawlers that you saw in Kino der Toten, and they are an evolution of these creatures. There is the Jolting Jack, and there's the Nova 6 Bomber. The Jolting Jack is a creature that can teleport around, and it can fire electric bolts at you.
So I can remember playing zombies for the very first time. I remember playing through it and thinking, wow, this is really something special that we have here. And then to see it come full circle, and now we have an operation in Black Ops 4 that's fully themed for zombies.
Yeah, it should be in Black Ops 3, it's so
all
shit.
this lore that we've built up over multiple titles, multiple games, and multiple maps is super exciting. Kind of see that all come to fruition. I think players are really going to enjoy it and get excited by it.
You just heard from Craig, from Danny, from Mark, and joining us here in the studio today is our lead writer, Mr. Craig Houston.
Good morning, John.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited, you know.
All
And
right.
you know what happens when I get excited?
What happens?
Good things happen in zombies. At least that's the plan.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
it seems like there
Black Ops
is
4 when it launched.
quite a bit going on with this operation.
Oh boy.
All things zombies, but within the zombies experience itself, there is quite a bit of story to catch us up on.
Yes.
So the experience is called
Alpha Omega, yeah.
but
It's just
it
stupid.
blends a number of different experiences. Bring us up to speed on
Well, yeah. It's amazing that quite a lot's happened. Quite a lot's happened so far in Black Ops 4, particularly with regards to the Ether story. We last saw our gang in 2 maps at launch, Blood of the Dead and Classified. I think it's probably fair to give some spoilers at this point. I'll try and keep it light. At the end of Blood of the Dead, we saw the Primus crew finally breaking out of the cycle. But more than that, we saw that Nikolai Belinsky has now assumed the mantle of leadership. Richtofen gave him the Chronorium, and so from this point on, it's Nikolai, not Richtofen, that's calling the shots. Whereas over
Fucking idiot. You
on
can't even say who's
Classified,
calling shots this
we
time.
finally
Fucking
learned
idiot.
that the Ultimus versions of the characters didn't actually die on the moon. But more than that, at the very end of the map, they met the Primus versions. So we had Primus and Ultimus face to face. Where are we going to go from there? Well, guess what Idiot Craig decided? Let's put them all in one map and double the narrative workload. So that's what we did.
Well, let's talk to Idiot Craig about
Yes.
This is so. Whenever you talk about sort of the narrative workload, put it in perspective. Whenever you take on an experience like Blood of the Dead, like Classified, you're generally talking about how many lines of script.
From 2,500 is probably an average. We've gone up above that sometimes on maps like Revelations, and that's split between our principal characters and any kind of audio logs or guest appearances that we might have. For Alpha Omega, it's actually about 5,500 lines. So when you've got Primus and Ultimus running around together in the same map, any combination of different foursomes, you know, it's fun to see how they react to each other and how they reconcile their various differences. So, you know, beyond just all their dialogue, this is also one of the biggest maps we've ever done in terms of narrative Easter eggs. Let me just say, there's a lot of ancillary characters that you have met in the past, or if you've not met them, you've at least heard about them, and they are going to pop up in various ways throughout the map.
Well, whenever we talk about the map, which we're going to get into shortly, I mean, we're talking about an experience. So, from a narrative perspective, what,
Huge.
500 lines?
Huge.
And the map itself is several 100% larger than.
Well, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean,
We'll get to it.
do I start taking a look? Should we take a look?
Well, so you know what? Probably. Let's jump into it.
Well, I think the first
Okay.
thing is that, you know, there's been a lot of rumours for a while that we were going to be going to Newtown, but as always, things are never as simple as they appear. I mean,
They are not.
the sign that you'll see when you arrive identifies it as Camp Edward, which, you know, isn't quite what people thought Newtown was necessarily, because what it turns out to be is that it is a front for something else, something much, much larger. This is actually a facility owned and operated by a group known as Broken Arrow. And once you start scratching the surface, you're going to realise that, you know, the Nuketown that you think you know, really is, I was going to say literally the tip of the iceberg, but that's not true. It's figuratively the tip of the iceberg. I think the overall map is many times larger than the original. I can't remember the exact proportion, so I'll just say if it was like that, it's not like that.
We've got a very complicated relationship with icebergs this year.
Well, we don't make stories. That's the chaos story. So just keep that to the side. Just keep that to the side.
Fair. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about the implications of having the Primus and Ultimus crews working together for the first time. How does that begin shaping our experience here?
I think everyone knows that the main difference, that Primus crew got to go on a very kind of emotional journey, searching for their souls and trying to save them and everything, whereas Ultimus were a bit more goofy, stumbling around, having a bit of a laugh and not caring too much about the fate of the universe. Now under Nikolai's leadership, obviously he's going to first of all find out that things weren't quite as simple as he thought, and Richtofen always had reasons for keeping secrets to himself. Nikolai's going to struggle a little bit with that, because once you've read that chronorium and you know what's coming, should you tell people, or do you try and just nudge them along, or did the book say that you never told them? It's a real can of worms, but like I say, getting the different versions of the characters in the same map, you really, really see the contrast. Richtofen, Ultimus Richtofen, insane, utterly insane. I mean, Primus is only marginally more stable, but he's got kind of a mellower soul. Drunk Nikolai bumbling around looking for his vodka and going on about his ex-wives. It's kind of a reminder of how far the characters have come, and seeing what they do and don't recognise in each other is part of the fun.
Well, and you get to play as both.
Yes.
Well, tell us, was that a bit of a reunion of sorts? Was it a walk down memory lane from a narrative standpoint, in terms of like how those personalities?
In a weird way, it's funny. I remember saying this when we did Classified, because we'd spent so long with Primus since Origins forward, really, and we tried to make them more realistic and give them a lot more emotional resonance, which I definitely think we achieved. If you look at the Black Ops 3 season and all those death scenes, it was nice to see people crying as much as I actually cried when I wrote some of them, because I wasn't funny. It wasn't, but no, it's no laughing matter. And that emotional journey that we'd taken them on, that was hugely important to me. So when we first decided to go back to Ultimus, a little part of me was a bit, they weren't as much fun, they didn't have as much. But once I started writing the jokes again and making myself laugh a lot, and hopefully other people, it's no good if it's just me that laughs, but so initially there was a bit of a resistance from me to bring back Ultimus, because I thought we'd progress the characters. Yeah. But doing Classified and then doing this, where we get them together, it's it's the best of both worlds. It really is.
All right. So here we are, find ourselves back in Newtown.
Yep.
Take us on a stroll. Greg.
Take us on a stroll. Well, look, there's a bus. It's not the bus. It's not going anywhere. That's not to say that Ted isn't necessarily going to appear somewhere down the line, but he's a robot. He's kind of difficult to get rid of. So like I was saying earlier, a lot of these areas are going to be familiar to people, obviously with a slight twist. There's going to be lots of, like every time we do a map, it gets its own sheen on it. But this, like I said earlier, literally just represents a small fraction of actually what's there to be discovered. So, we let people start off thinking they know what they're getting into, and then as they get deeper into the game, we obviously pull the rug out from under them, and suddenly they're in a state of panic, not knowing what's coming next. That's the way we do things.
Talk to me a little bit about sort of the lighting of the environment. To me, I mean, it's beautiful looking map.
It is, and in fact, that's one of the things that the characters will talk quite a lot about. In fact, I think it's Ultimus Nikolai. It says, "Who are billionaires who live in such luxury?" So they all have their impressions of what's going on in the map. But as you see now, we're starting to go into some of the lower levels, into the Broken Arrow facility, where like all our good scientific research groups, they've been doing all sorts of things that they maybe shouldn't have been doing, or definitely had consequences that they may not have expected.
As we find ourselves down here in the bunker, talk to us a little bit about kind of the size of the experience, because I'm seeing things in Newtown that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's of a magnitude of 4, I think is the right way to say it. 4 times bigger. What you used to see was a quarter of what's really there now. I'm just approaching statistics in different ways here, and none of them are very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's at least 4 times the size of what Newtown originally was.
What were some of your favorite elements to build back into this experience?
Well, I mean, the biggest one for me really was narrative, to kind of get into the narrative history of the building. I mean, I remember people asking me years and years ago, why was Malton in the bunker? So, you know, that's something that we're going to get to revisit a little bit, shall we say. So I think, you know, even beyond what people actually knew of Newtown, there was just a lot of very significant narrative threads that we knew that we had to come back to. I mean, we explored a little bit of Broken Arrow in the comic book series we did a couple of years ago with the Victus crew. We saw some of Russman's history to that. But this is much more of a deep dive, and you will get to see some of the things they are responsible for, including some twists on traditional enemies and traditional weapons. I think you saw some lightning hounds running around there who are a little bit of a variation on the usual hellhounds.
A note for viewers. This is a sort of pre-release build. There's some temp audio in there, so
yeah, it might be some of mine. So if you hear a Scottish person or a robot yelling out, that's just because this build is before we had implemented in the actual actors' dialogue. Yeah. That's another thing. God, they had fun doing both characters.
But that'll sound a little different tomorrow when it's out.
Yes.
Okay. So prior to just over the last couple of days, we've seen the Ray Gun Mark II.
Oh yeah, the Ray Gun Mark II
on our social channels. Talk to us about the Ray Gun Mark II.
Well, ray guns have got a long history in zombies, and you know, people always like to see the ray gun coming back. And this time, the Ray Gun Mark II is coming back with a very special twist. I don't want to explain exactly how it functions, but let's just say you can modify it or put it together in a number of different ways that significantly alter its functionality. So it kind of becomes
I wish you'd got that
customize your own ray gun the way you like kind of ray gun. Good old Ray.
So the inventiveness of the ray gun doesn't end there. If I'm not mistaken, there's a new perk that's being introduced.
Yes, Blood Wolf Bite. Sounds good, doesn't it?
I like it.
Sounds
Blood
good
Wolf
already.
Bite.
Well, this one I particularly like because what it does is when you're doing a lot of damage and killing a lot of zombies and you have this perk activated, it will spawn a wolf known as Luna, who will then fight alongside you, jumping up the zombies. And come on, dogs eating zombies? That's good. We've usually done
an Easter egg or
this
something.
map, the lightning hounds coming at us. It's nice to have a dog in our side again.
Yeah.
We've not done that for a little while. And the last one, I think, was the ghost dog of the Reisendrache. At least this one's alive.
All right. So kind of looking ahead, just peeking right over the top a little bit, taking down the road with the Ether story in the next DLC. Where does it all take us?
It takes me back to my office where I continue writing it. No, it is. It's going to take us. We're so close to the end now. We're so close to wrapping up the story threads that we've been having for a long time. A lot of them are going to come together and coalesce with
It's ended on my
Alpha
first
and Omega.
college games.
But there are other things within this map that are going to lead us directly into the next operation in our DLC 4, and there will be a lot of answers. There will be a lot of pain. There will be a lot of joy, and maybe a few tears as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to wrapping it all up.
All right. So let's just let's recap everything here. Make sure that we've covered it all. Huge narrative. Larger
biggest
map,
ever.
Larger map, larger play space, playing both Primus and Ultimus.
Yes.
Brand new experience. Ray Gun Mark II, new perk. What are we leaving out?
The secret things that we're not going to talk about.
The secret things.
Because there's always, back to your iceberg metaphor again.
Yeah.
What we've said today, it's a bigger bit of iceberg, but it's still not the entirety of the iceberg. There's, as I say, there's a bunch of ancillary and or guest characters, both allies and enemies, that are going to pop up as you progress in the main quest. So lots to see.
Craig, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. In honor of tomorrow's release of Alpha Mega, we brought along a little bit of gameplay. So here's the sneak peek of what is to come tomorrow.
What is the next phase of our journey? I wish I could forewarn you of what is to come and what is at stake. Show them no mercy!
Yo.
There is more to this facility than meets the eye.
An attack is sick. Boom. I see double dual rolling ray guns.
Welcome back. Zombies continues to invade every...
Shut up.
Stake. Show them no mercy! There is more to this facility than meets the eye.
Yeah, that was double dual rolling ray gun that too. What do you know? Like, why is double ray guns in that? What do you mean?
So he pulls that bad boy out, and it's pretty straightforward. You shoot it, it fires big bullets that do a lot of damage. Please hold on. For some of our newer players, can you please explain how that works?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll
It's
slow
about,
down.
it's about yay big, and it's about yay damage.
It's such a giant gun that only Reaper could carry it, so that's why we had to wait until Reaper came out to release this weapon.
No mere mortal could hold it except Reaper.
Yeah, correct. Makes sense.
He's not immortal either.
That's right.
Halo. Literally carry that. And if you don't know what I mean, just put who's that? What is this?
So he's got two barrels. When you fire it from the hip, it's gonna be firing from both barrels, doing a lot of damage, and it'll be doing a pretty slow fire rate. But once you aim up, you're gonna zoom in a little bit, and that's when you really rev it up, and it's gonna be firing those things at an even faster fire rate. Devastating against players, score streaks, equipment, pretty much anything.
Why is the thing another thing for scores? It's
Slow
fucking
and vulnerable
zero.
while you're using it, though. So that's Reaper's specialist weapon. And to accommodate that, Reaper has got the Shroud, which is his equipment, his special issue equipment. So the way the Shroud works, it basically creates an area on the minimap that completely blacks it out for enemies. So you can't be seen by enemy fog of war, you can't be seen by enemy UAVs, anything like that. When you fire your weapon, you don't show up. The whole area within this Shroud, when it's deployed, is blocked out to enemy. And it creates some new gameplay opportunities where if you're trying to either hold down an area where your team's at and you don't want to be seen in there, you can do that, or you can, if you're attacking an objective, you can shoot the Shroud. It fires kind of like the sensor dart, so you can shoot in a trajectory at a distance, and that way you're laying cover for your team to advance. Sure. Interesting way to play with the minimap. Interesting. All right. So, but there's also some news on the party game front. What are we bringing with this operation? So, starting tomorrow, Sticks and Stones, the new party game mode for this operation, is going to be the featured playlist.
And how's it going to be in
It's
for a
it's
fucking
party
week?
game mode, so you can bring your friends in. It's a free for all. We had a ton of fun playing just the other day. Yeah. So the way this game mode works, it's a free for all. You're fighting against everybody in there, and you load out with an explosive crossbow. Shoot somebody with a crossbow. It's not going to kill them when it hits them, but it's going to blow up shortly after, and then they're going down. So that's a skill shot. It's a projectile. Then when you switch to your secondary weapon, you got a ballistic knife. So instant kill melees, or the ballistic knife, you can hit them with that. Also a skill shot weapon. And then as your equipment, everyone's got a hatchet. It's another skill shot weapon. So it's a lot of fun. You're running around trying to hit each other with these, trying to lead players. If there's
Yeah,
kind of a little
everyone knows,
rock
I think,
paper
that
scissors
everyone's
going
played
on
Black
there.
Ops
You
1
got
and
a
2.
melee on the ballistic knife, but on the crossbow you've got explosives, but they don't die immediately. And then the hatchet has got kind of the real factor here. So the way that the scoring works in this, let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah. So if you kill an enemy with the crossbow,
Right, I'm going to just explain. You kill a crossbow, right? You kill an enemy, you're going to get a point. You die, you're going to lose all your points if it's like Black Ops 1 and 2. And no, if you get hit with Tomahawk, you're going to lose all your points. Is what's going to happen. If you get hit with, yeah, if you get hit by a Tomahawk, you're going to lose all your points. Watch, I bet that's what it is.
or the ballistic knife, it's going to be 100 points towards your score. Person with the most score at the end of the game wins. Hatchet only gets you 50 points, but the person that you're taking out with the hatchet, their score is completely zeroed out. Yep.
I told you.
So that's kind of what makes the it's so brutal. It's what makes the game so fun though, because you could go on such a crazy run. You're like, oh, I want to be in first place. You get to first place, and then you realize everyone's trying to take you out with a hatchet.
Yeah, because Black Ops 4 is
right? Absolutely, good times. So to help drive the action on that, we've got a UAV ping. Yeah, that happens about every minute, just to make sure that the first place player isn't camping too much. And not only is there a UAV ping, but if you are in first place, you're going to be shown with a gold dot instead of a red dot. So everyone's going to know where you are. They're going to be coming after you. So there is no safe haven, and it's just a ton of fun. All right, so that's Sticks and Stones. That's awesome stuff. But we also have some maps with us for everyone in the Black Ops Pass, and Miles is over here.
Oh, that waste of fucking
You
money.
brought some footage. You brought a build.
I brought
Better than footage. Brought a build.
The real thing.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to talk about the new maps coming out in Apocalypse Z. Like we've tried to do with all of the maps on each operation, was really themed them appropriate to the operation. And this is all about zombies invading the rest of the game. And so we really took to that heart. What are some cool elements we haven't done in the multiplayer maps?
I mean,
This map that we're looking at is called Der Schatten, which means the shadow. And this is all
yeah,
about...
the rise and drop.
Tell us about the naming meeting on that one. How did that go?
Oh, this is fun.
This is actually, it's pretty different for MP because we haven't done a German map. Zombies has done this before with Der Reisendrock and some of the other stuff they've done. Is this map actually relates one-to-one to Der Reisendrock? Because if you look up here, we've actually got the castle. Der Reisendrock is, this whole map takes place in the shadow, which is why it's called the shadow of Der Reisendrock. So we've kind of played them together in that sense. So you get to play in this little Austrian Alps town, but the main thing is that the ginormous robot that sort of has fallen victim across the entire map, which is pretty cool. So you get these really epic kind of gameplay moments fighting in his guts, basically.
Yeah.
So you're crawling through, and it's totally smashed. This church, and what's really cool is that the Element 115 has got these supernatural properties where things are not as they seem, so things are floating. He's leaking his guts everywhere, and he gets some really cool gameplay. You come out here, and what this is really cool is this is where his head's fallen, naturally, because it fell off the church when he smashed down. But it's really cool is this is like a really awesome power position Overwatch here. So you get to look through his visor and feel like you're the robot, which is something really cool. And then you get little green interact button. If you see his finger over there, you can time it because you can see the shadow of enemy players. Press this bad boy, and that finger is going to smash enemies to bits, which is pretty exciting. Oh, yeah. So this is pretty cool. It's a cool little thing to kind of block them and also kind of smash them down if you can. But this map is very different, right? It does take place at night. We're trying to mirror, again, what was in Der Reisendrock and offer some new and interesting things. I got this train station. The long engagement down the street is super interesting in terms of decision making.
Like a fucking
you can have these
Battlefield
really long engagements, or you can cut through the backside and cut through some of these buildings. So we think in the portfolio of the Operation Z maps, it's really, really interesting. We've also got some hidden friends that like to hang out as well. A little zombie action.
Fitting for the operation. There you go.
Right.
Really thematically appropriate.
Some cool stuff overall. This is like what we call our little Christmas lane. Some bad juju happened here, unfortunately. But we're really excited about this because it's got some really interesting stuff overall. It is a larger map, and what that allows us to do is there's just a lot of different ways to move around the map and flank players. And
this map's going to be here to just tell you.
In really, really cool and clever ways overall. So
it's going to end. It's not going to end. It's going to go to the 10-minute mark.
Process or the creative process behind this, because I mean, whenever you said that, your team really kind of took it to heart. You weren't kidding.
No, yeah. This is exciting because we were like, hey, we're going to do a zombie operation. And you're like, what does that mean? And then the team starts to go, okay, man,
what have we not done? And we really haven't showcased some of the awesome sort of what the Zombies team has been doing and bring that into multiplayer and enhance that through multiplayer. And this is where we were, I want to get in this visor, we want to fight it. This was a cool idea we had, and now it becomes a powered position. What happens if the guts and this robot falls over the entire map? What does that mean to the village? How does that change normal flow? Just offer some really, really cool opportunities. And then fighting around the floating stuff, the 115 is pretty cool and exciting overall. So it's just more opportunities to do things we haven't done before, visually and gameplay wise.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that for the zombies, the theme, right? Everything's supposed to fit in. That's actually why we chose Reaper for this operation, because can't be affected by this, can't be bitten by the zombies.
That's right.
He's a robot.
Naturally immune.
He is the zombie Terminator.
Miles, is super cool, but that's not the only map that you brought with us. 3 maps in all, and right now you are taking
3
us
maps instead
to
of
a
1?
new one.
Or 2?
Where are we at right now? Yeah, so this map's called Remnant, and it takes place in the Louisiana marshes. So it's got this really creepy supernatural vibe. And where we are at is at the Museum of
That looks
Unnatural
about as
History. And
creepy as
we
a
really love this map
fucking
because
mouse.
what we've started to do
It's about as
is
creepy as
grab bits
it
and
looks as
pieces
creepy as a
of
fucking puppet.
zombie history and do a little twist on it. So if we go to the Crater of Hell exhibit, this will actually take us to the moon. And so we've got this little cool diorama of, if zombie players would know, this is the sort of the moon stuff. And you'd come out here and you get to play in the actual moon. So what we've really done is this museum has started to buy these artifacts around the world. They don't actually know that they're zombified, and so they happen to buy naturally. And they buy one, and unfortunately, it's still alive, and it unleashes chaos across the entire map, turning people into zombies. And now here we are in the aftermath, and then some of the people have turned into zombies. This is like an astronaut that was showing people the moon area. Now he's a zombie, and he's stuck up there. So it's like little cool vignettes around that we really get to embellish. And then it's really cool visual contrast and gameplay contrast where you step into this environment and you feel like you're on the moon, and you get this really high to low differentiation. Get in the crater because we got some like hard points here and dom stuff, which is really super unique. And then you step out and you're into a whole new world. Or hey, let's go to the bus, bus to the beyond, which is transit. Right. So now we're at the diner, and we got our fake people eating in there. Again, little zombie over there eating, stuck in there. But it's really cool because this is all about getting to that bus, and you've never actually played this MP, so now you're in the bus, you're trying to hold it down, there's a lot of objectives around here. This map's the first map we've actually done 7 hard points, which is super interesting. The map's pretty big overall, and we really wanted to try to maximize that space. So you get this a lot of variety as you're playing the maps, and a lot of clever choices to make on the inside to outside. What were the playtests like with that? How'd that all pan out? We were a little worried, but surprisingly, everyone was like, "Man, this is awesome. We should do more of that," which is cool. Except you need more space, so it was like chicken or egg, but it worked out. The next exhibit is what we're calling the Wicked Waters, and this is basically kind of a small recreation of Titanic. So we've taken some of the cool bits from Titanic. You're at sea here. And then we've got kind of these ghosts. The story being here is that these souls lost from the Titanic are trapped in the museum, and again, they're trying to scare you. It's like the haunted mansion kind of Disneyland. Is they don't really know what happened, but it offers unique gameplay, right? You just came from the bus in transit, shooting and holding that down, to now making more decisions going in and out of the little mini boat, and now you can try to hold down the front of the boat and try to hold down these other positions in front of you overall. And there's
Great, you're actually the tour guide.
yeah, that's right. Welcome to Natural History.
Step this way.
We've got some shirts that we'll be selling at the end of the tour. But it's awesome because the whole outside is in the marshes. It's really creepy. And then we come over here, and now we've entered into the asylum. Again, players will sort of recognize this really creepy chair, creepy lighting. Just lean into each of these exhibits. Yeah. Oh, hello, zombie friend again. Overall, and then we're back at sort of the front. So each area has its own theming overall of exhibits, which is really cool. When you talk about how did we lean into this sort of zombie theming operation, this was really exciting for us to get into these different areas, this zombie lore, and really enhance it sort of MP-wise, how we can play it.
I've never played an MP map that feels so much like a zombies map.
Yeah.
But it's its own creation in and of itself.
And it's so different from each side, right? Like now we're outside in the creepy marshes, and we've got like a bomb site here, so you get some really interesting gameplay of like the water and coming in and out overall, and then just cutting through all these different buildings is really, really exciting. again, come back to the creative process here, because you're mixing so many like different locales from like and so much heritage. I mean, how did you land on these spots?
It was surprisingly different. We actually took stock of like zombie maps we have done. Right?
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we want to do a museum idea. What are the